Hey, good evening. Welcome to Let's Talk to Sports. It has definitely been a while for Dwayne and myself. I didn't want the channel, anybody that watches when we talk about sports to think that we've abandoned what we do. We just, just been a real interesting winter. The whole football season kind of been tied up with other stuff. We did do what we usually do. We watch football together on the phone and had some interesting conversations during the year. A lot of people mess with us about the Cowboys, but with all due respect, we welcome it. We think it's kind of odd because a lot of times people that claim they watch football and are big football fans, what they'll do is they'll take on the narrative of the national media and they be so far off base with what their assessment of the Cowboys is that it's kind of comical. Um, Dwayne and myself, we're gonna do a post mortem on the Cowboys season, and then keep them or dump them, and then what we think could be some good things that they already did going into the next season. What's up, brother?
What's going on, Q? Man, just trying to stay warm. If you're in the Northeast, you know what that means. Whole
Yes.
northern quadrant of the country is under freeze. But you know, end of the season is this period where the Pro Bowl are trying to do the best that they can with the Pro Bowl, but it's kind of hard at this point. 2 days worth of skill competitions, then they're gonna do a flag game. So for big football fans, they're looking forward to the big game, and you got the Chiefs and the Eagles going head up, and should be interesting.
Before we get started, let's say the way I titled the show is like the post mortem, which for medical terms means cause of death of the Dallas Cowboys 2022 season. How you want to start that off? What do you think? What do you think that expectations, what we thought during the season, and then the cause of the end of the season of so abruptly so far.
Well, another 12-5 season this year was not without a NFC East title, and we lose to the same team in the playoffs. Difference from last year, you lose to them on the road as opposed to um, at home. My overall theme with this season was Dak Prescott wasn't good enough, man. I'm a big Dak Prescott fan. Everyone that knows me knows that, all the way back to his Mississippi State days. And, he had the injury. He missed games. Cooper Rush stepped in, did a good job, 4-1 in the games that Dak wasn't there. Um, could it be injury? I mean, he had a plate in his thumb. Could have been that. I don't know. He generally doesn't turn the ball over like he did this year. Um, I know people say top five offense, Kellen Moore, but if you really look at it, they make their chops in the NFC East. You know what I'm saying? Dak Prescott is 20 games over 500 in the NFC East, but he's average against everybody else. Stats bore that out. And in that game against San Francisco, even though it's more than a couple of weeks ago now, you just needed him to be average. You didn't need him to be great, and he couldn't even be average. Wide receiver position, Michael Gallup, and now he had to have another surgery. They're saying he had to clean up the knee and the ankle.
The
So
opposite knee and ankle.
yeah, so you signed this guy to an extension, and now he's having another offseason surgery. Um, it was almost like Noah Brown got more targets than CD Lamb in a lot of games. You got a strength. It's a lot of great tight ends in this league, but I'm talking about an overall group. Cowboys' overall group is pretty impressive. I don't think they use them enough. And I think the Dallas Cowboys, as a whole, I think they talk too much. Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, Tank Lawrence. I think they talk for people who want anything. And so, you put that all together. I mean, do you blame McCarthy? I don't know. You can't blame Dan Quinn. He had the defense playing very well. Kellen Moore was let go. So Jerry Jones is basically put all the pressure on Mike McCarthy for going into next year.
Mm. Well, it's interesting because usually because we are engulfed in the draft the last couple years, we usually understand that the off season basically starts from OTAs all the way to the end of your season, whether it's early or the Super Bowl, ultimate game. I think from a roster building standpoint, they didn't have a good roster going in, which is weird. Why they approached this year, knowing some of the salary cap ramifications going into this year. So I think that the roster was a little jacked up, knowing you decided to move on from Amari Cooper, which was good, and then knowing CeeDee Lamb was coming back from an injury, and then James Washington got hurt. So I think that the roster going forward in the training camp was jacked up, and it's ironic that the first game we played mirrored the last game we played against Tampa Bay. They looked at um, uneasy, so to say. Dak, something wasn't right with Dak, and then he got the thumb injury, and then Cooper Rush and the defense caught fire. And I think, unfortunately, with some teams, is they try to change their philosophy during the season. I think that Dallas started realizing that they were in striking distance, knowing the state of the NFC. So I think that the front office tried to be semi-aggressive and saying, we're one of the few teams that could win it. I think that the season was very interesting from a defense standpoint and offense standpoint. Dak Prescott had one of the weirdest years for him. The interceptions was being thrown at alarming rates, not the typical tip interceptions. It was a few of those, but just bad mistakes. I mean, he had a nickname at one time called Check Down Dak, and I actually would have preferred him to be Check Down Dak this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that going forward, he has a lot of soul searching to do what he's going to be, because he's basically an average quarterback right now, who can be better because he has the skill set to be better than average, but he's going to always be in everybody's 15 to 8 range. He's going to always be in that range depending on that season until he has a breakthrough. I think the defense took strides. I think the Cowboys have one glaring need, and that is the cornerback on defense. But I think they could work that out. That could either be on the roster or some little bit of changes, or probably a draft pick. Offensively, I'm disappointed because it's empty calories. It's like Kellen Moore has a incredible resume for a play caller. If you look at his last 4 or 5 years, it's up there with anybody outside of playoff wins, and he's going to do well at the Chargers. So most people be like, "Well, what happened?" Well, what happened is philosophically. Um, Usually, every year, people will blame the season on something in Dallas, and the overall temperature for the last 20 years have been the ownership. I can agree with that now. I can agree that the ownership, you can't force philosophies that people don't follow. Kellen Moore was forced on Mike McCarthy. You can't win like that. And that has been going on in Dallas since every coach ever, ever, even going way back to before, after Jimmy Johnson. It's amazing that Barry Switzer even won, because the talent was just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Every coach got forced on by another coach or coaches, and you cannot win football like that. A coach needs to have carte blanche and be able to, even if he don't make decisions, he need to be able to pick his guys. So with that, they postpartum cause of death is inconsistent football and same old Cowboys. As a,
Starts at the top, man. You know me. We've had plenty of talks in the past. I've never been a real big fan of Jerry Jones. Even when we were successful, 30 some odd years ago, he was the first owner that needed to be on the sidelines, guy from the press box being on the sideline. And this man's been a general manager. He has the longest reign of a general manager, I think, in any sport. Because he ain't going to fire himself.
well, went to
He's
the
the
Hall of
owner.
Fame. And he's a Hall of Fame general
Yeah.
manager, owner,
So,
contributor.
yeah. So, so
And it's the
now,
loyalty that a person like me who tries to speak good of Jerry, and you know how loyal he is as a Cowboy fan. It's the loyalty over you're not doing a good enough job as a general manager.
Right.
Y'all pick good players. It's not that issue. As a general manager and understanding the direction of your team and knowing the temperature of the room of your
Yeah.
team or the league and what's going on, you're doing a bad job as general manager, and you should have been fired at least 8 times by now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
But
I know. Earlier, brother, you did the roster, and then I wanted to do it, but I was on the move. But I'm glad that you did it because now we can go over it again together. And I'm
right.
quite sure we're going to be battling over a couple guys.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
So this is the roster for the Cowboys this season. Some of these guys are free agents, and Dwayne and myself are going to do what we call keep them or dump them.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's been a couple changes in the Cowboys. We all know Kellen Moore has went on to the Los Angeles Chargers. The Cowboys hired Mike Solari as their offensive line coach, which me and Dwayne find very interesting because he's a coach that's been around a long time. He's long in the tooth. But all he wants to do is be an offensive line coach, and that's a plus for
Hmm.
me and Dwayne.
Hmm.
And they also hired Brian Schottenheimer, son of the late Martin Schottenheimer, um, who, if you look at his philosophy, I think me and Dwayne talk about how we're both
Marty
elated.
Ball. Marty Ball. Marty Ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, full disclosure for people, when we've had some of our conversations during the season, we all agreed that we felt it was time to move on from Kellen Moore. And the first name I said that I wanted as offensive coordinator was Brian Schottenheimer. And I said that not even knowing he was already in the building. So I know it's not being applauded, you know. But if you look at what Mike McCarthy, this is Mike McCarthy's show now, man. He's calling the plays. And Jerry Jones, who's known to talk and run his mouth, talking about he want Mike McCarthy to be Tom Landry. I don't know where he came with that from. Again, he just runs his mouth, but now he's put it all on Mike McCarthy.
Well,
So it's
well,
either
Dwayne,
Mike McCarthy is going to be successful, or your next head coach is going to be Dan Quinn.
I'm going to tell you why I believe that the a lot of people around the Cowboys don't want Brian Schottenheimer. They don't want Brian Schottenheimer because number one, the Cowboy guys are homers. They're not homers because they want to be. They're homers by default. They're unable to think outside the box and unable to understand philosophy and philosophical differences. The history with with Brian Schottenheimer goes back to his father. Marty Schottenheimer was basically the mentor to Mike McCarthy. So he's showing loyalty to somebody that he knows. As someone, when you brought up, we were on the phone when you brought up Brian Schottenheimer, you Googled his name and you say, Q, he's on the staff. And we bugged out that he was already on the staff. One thing that Brian Schottenheimer is going to do, anybody from the New Jersey area knows, he was the offensive coordinator for the Jets when they had a young quarterback named Mark Sanchez, where they played ground and pound football. And he was the quarterback that Russell Wilson statistically had his best years. Even though after he had his best year, a 13-3 season, Russ came out and said, let me cook. What Brian Schottenheimer is going to do is he's going to strip down your offensive run game philosophy. He's going to strip it all the way down to the center quarterback exchange and really teach the offensive line and offensive personnel how to run the football properly. So I think that a lot of Cowboy guys that follow the team and they do great work, but I think the reason why they're not familiar with them because we've been familiar with our guys, the same old coaching, the Garrett tree or a Jimmy Johnson tree or a Parcells tree. But if you knew anything about football, you would know Marty Schottenheimer's best friend was Bill Parcells and Belichick. So you know that these guys believe in coaching and playing what we would say close to the vest, keeping the game close from an offensive philosophical standpoint. And that's where I think that Dak needs to go back to as a quarterback, get back to his roots, heavy play action. The Cowboys is one of the teams last year that was least in play action. And is kind of head scratching knowing Dak Prescott is probably one of the best play action quarterbacks in the NFL.
It's sad to say because Dak has been starting in this league since 2016. They're going to simplify things for him. They're going to take away a lot of these reads for him. Because one of the knocks you can have on Rain Dakota is that he holds on the ball too much. He's late on his throws. He's late on reads. He tries to force the ball in tight windows. And that's not who he is. I laughed. I was like, I want Mississippi State Dak. I got Mississippi State Dak versus Tampa Bay in that first wild card. Moving his legs, using his feet, So now Mike McCarthy is basically going to go to a West Coast type offense. So we got a West Coast type offense. If they show you man, you know where the ball's going. There's only one or two places the ball is going to go. They show you zone, same thing. The ball's only going to go one or two places. You don't got a lot of time to think. It's a quick, get the ball out your hands offense. So we'll see if that's something that will help
For
Dak
for
Prescott.
for those that may not understand what Dwayne meaning when it comes to reading this route in an offense, receivers will have what they call routes. However, you have routes that have to be ran, and then you give receivers what they call option routes. If you ever watch Kansas City, everybody runs their route except Kelsey. Kelsey runs a lot of option routes. If you know Kelsey, Kelsey will do the typical route that Cowboy fans remember that Jason Witten used to do, the Y option.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why that is because you base it off of leverage of the linebacker and where the linebacker is placed. So even Patrick Mahomes, who we think is the best quarterback in the NFL, only one of his receivers are running the option route. In Dallas, they had everybody in the route pattern was running option routes, and that's really hard for a quarterback to understand and their receivers to understand because the receivers also got to identify zone and man coverage as well. So the West Coast offense, like Dwayne said, it simplifies the routes for everybody and it makes it easier. You would think, okay, y'all saying it makes it easier. Does it make it easier for the defense? It don't make it easier for the defense. It makes it easy for the receivers and the quarterback.
Part of the problem with the Cowboys is if you look at statistically, they're like number one offenses running stop routes. All they do is run stop routes under Kellen Moore. Whereas if Mike McCarthy, if you go back and you look at him at the Packers, most of the passing game is 15 yards. But you're giving these receivers space. So when they're catching these 15-yard routes, they turn into 35 because they get the yard after the catch. Where every route the Cowboys run, it's either a go or it's a stop. Which, if you notice, CeeDee Lamb, Gallup, Noah Brown, they have no space after they make the catches.
And folks, remember how asinine that is what Dwayne just said for a guy like Michael Gallup coming back from an ACL surgery, running comeback routes. Stopping and starting is his hardest issue. If you notice anything about Michael Gallup, and Michael Gallup is who he is, he's a good, I would say, below two receiver right now. Um, good three, below two. But Michael Gallup is good for two patterns: slants or goes, or the
Yeah.
arrow route, as Dwayne always says.
And if you
He's
think
not
about
good
it,
for a button hook.
and this is going back, and it's hard to skip this whole year, but Quentin sent me a clip last week of when Amari Cooper was there, and he was frustrated. Like they called the play, and he was like, "Man, I got to run another stop route." And Dak was like, "Yo, just run it, just run it." And then at the snap, Dak was like, "Don't run the stop, do the go." It's a touchdown. So
Because
even these
cornerbacks, it's easy for cornerbacks to sit on these
easy, it's
routes.
easy to break on them. Think about a lot of his pick sixes. Think about against San Francisco, the two picks. I held my breath all year every time I saw him drop back and throw the ball over the middle because there's no spacing. There's more than two people. So when you got two people in the same area on the route, for all tip is gonna get picked because now you got two and three defenders there.
Yeah,
So we're gonna see what it is.
and typically, and just to finish it off, it's kind of crazy we're saying this. But the 49ers, and as great as their defense is, their zone, they run a cover two or a cover three every single play. If the 49ers are blitzing and they play you in man, you got them out of their element. 49ers defense was great. But if you notice against them, what they would do, they would have three men on the side of the field basically guarding that whole side because these routes are not complex. They're very easy to figure out. And it's almost sad that we have to say this. Football is a very easy sport to figure out what a team is doing. And the Cowboys offense was very simplistic on what they were trying to do and trying to attack you. So Wayne, I appreciate your insight always, man. And it's funny because I don't think people realize how we go at it on the phone during the season about different things we see, and then 5 weeks later, I'll say to you, Wayne, I seen what you've been talking about. You
Yeah,
was
see, it's a
you was right.
difference, man. And let me just say this: there's good and bad fans of every team in this league, and I know as a Cowboy fan, the trolling is going to happen. People troll me on my page all the time. I just laugh because they don't understand. I'm a Cowboy fan, but I'm a football fan first. And they also don't understand I'm more critical of the team that I root for than they could ever be, you know? Um, so it's interesting. But we know what we see. I'm not changing. Don't let this fool you. This is a Western Michigan Broncos shirt. It's Michigan. It ain't, you know what I'm saying? We did this impromptu show just to come on here. But we hold this team to a higher standard than anybody else could. People be like, oh, y'all always saying they're gonna win the Super Bowl. When have you ever seen me or this man come on in preseason and be like, well, the Cowboys gonna win the Super Bowl? Okay, if you notice, I said going into the playoffs, I've never had less confidence in a 12-5 team going into the postseason. So, will they continue their dominance of the NFC East? I don't know. You understand what I'm saying? Is the NFC East had a nice bounce back year. We also had a weak out of conference schedule. Out of conference schedule gets much tougher next year. So, hey man, this is all on Mike McCarthy, and that's basically what Jerry Jones has said.
And
I'm
that's
just
and Dwayne, honestly, from a football standpoint, that's who you want as a fan. That's who you wanted to be. You wanted to be on the head coach.
listen.
Somebody
They stripped the whole offensive staff. It's going to be a whole brand new offensive staff. The only person they kept from the offense was Prince
and Luda Wells.
and Luda Wells. So that's your wide receiver and your tight end coaches. Everybody else is going to be new. Now, there's continuity in that, right? Because as we stated, Brian Schottenheimer was the offensive coordinator out there in Seattle with Russell Wilson. Solari was out there with them. So there is some continuity there. The only thing that I found interesting about Solari, he's almost 70, which, whatever. Pete Carroll's a youthful. He's in his 70s, Pete Carroll. When you look at him, you don't believe it. But it's funny that they're bringing Solari back to Dallas, and he was on Dallas Cowboys staff in the end of the Tom
Yeah,
Landry era.
yeah.
So,
His first year as the line as a coach there was Coach Landry's last year, and I'm quite sure as a coach, a competitor, he's one of them guys. If you know about offensive line coaches in the NFL, he's one of them career offensive line coaches. Um, Skonecki, who was the longtime offensive line coach of New England,
mhm.
guys like Mike Munchak, who made his bones in Northeast Pennsylvania, is these guys are like revered offensive line coaches throughout the league. So, um, and most people said it was a real good hire. What was your thoughts on Brian Dwayne? Why you think so many people don't think it was a good hire?
Because there's a lot of people. I saw a lot of New York people saying he quarterbacks don't get better under him; they get worse. You know, so we'll see. You know, again, he's going to be part of the game plan, right? The play caller is going to be McCarthy. So at the end of the day, it's still going to be on McCarthy.
Appreciate your comment, brother from Twitch. I think he was a great hire. Me and
I
Dwayne
mean,
both
I
love the
like the
hire.
hire. I think if you look at it, people got to really pay attention to what happened towards the end of the year. If you look towards the end of the year, McCarthy became more and more involved in that offense, man. Headset on, helping to call plays. And believe it or not, man, the run game was different this year. And Schottenheimer was an offensive analyst. You notice in the playoff game, he had a headset on, man, in the box, up there by Dan Quinn. He had a
The-
big influence in
I,
that run game.
I text you, and I said something about the offense, and I'm gonna say this, and I know most Cowboy fans will be like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." The offensive line, as big as they was soft. They were soft at the point of attack. The offensive line and the offensive run game went south, and this may hurt a lot of Cowboy fans. It went south when Terrence Steele got hurt.
He's a mauler.
He's a
You
mauler.
know,
That's what he is. He's
um,
Dwayne calls him. Who is he? Dwayne in Cowboy history.
he's Doug Free. He's Doug Free. He's somebody that you plug in on right tackle, and you're not gonna think he's great, but you're gonna look up and you're gonna be like, damn, my right tackle is solid. So you know Terrence still has a long way to go back. I think the direction that the Cowboys are gonna go in, if you keep listening to them run their mouth, which they do oh so well, I think next year you are gonna see Tyron Smith at right tackle, Jason Peters at and Tyler Smith at left guard. I wouldn't do that. I would keep more Jason Peters as a swing. I think McGovern handled himself pretty well. Can we be honest that Tyler Bariatis is pretty good? Now that he doesn't have to worry about a light Connor Williams
He's
to
a
the
Pro
left of him.
Bowler. He's a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, and we only want to get into the Pro Bowl format. But hey man, so what I did is I went on DallasCowboy.com. Let's say that. Give them that credit. And I sorted the roster from last year into last year by uniform number. And we just gonna see where we agree and where we disagree, and this should be a little bit of fun. So the first person up will be Boss Man Fat himself, Calvin Joseph, number one, in your program. I'll kick off with Calvin Joseph. I want to keep him, and not for anything that he's done on the defensive side of the ball, but I think he is your C.J. Goodwin now. I think he's your special teams demon. You cannot knock his special teams play. I mean, he even forced that fumble in the San Francisco game. His special teams are solid. I just don't know what's happened with him on a cornerback. I think he could be fixed. I do. I think the skills is there, the traits is there. I think it's just a lack of focus at times. And once one route goes bad for him or he gets beat, he seems to go in the toilet after that, so to speak. But a second round pick, you know, I think this is another prove it or lose it year. But I would keep him.
I agree with you 1,000%. I think that his draft stock was so high, you got to keep him. If you watch him on special teams, he has become a beast on special teams. I think the problem with Kelvin Joseph is it could be the side stuff, but one of the biggest problems with Kelvin Joseph is he hasn't played enough snaps. If you look at college career all the way to pro, the man needs to play. Going forward, I hope that he's on the roster. I hope he gets a lot of snaps in training camp, a lot of snaps in preseason. He could be possibly a guy who's not a starter, who could basically push the starter for playing time in certain packages. And we could be pleasantly surprised towards the end of next season with Kelvin Joseph. I really, really like the kid. It's just something about him. He's always around, even if he gets beat, which is a very uncanny for most DBs, but he just needs to play more football. He doesn't play enough football, hasn't played enough football. So I'd keep him.
Well, next up is goes without saying. This Rain Dakota Prescott. Um, I'm gonna be interested to see what this extension looks like. I do believe they are gonna extend him. I think it's gonna be no more than a 2-year deal, really, as far as guaranteed money is concerned. I think now's the time for him to do what's best for this organization and restructure. And hey, it's all on Ford next year, man. I'm gonna be very critical of him. As you know, I handle Ford with kid gloves sometimes, because I just love him, man. I just think he's very regimented. You know what's going to be said. Like our buddy Craig laughs at me all the time because he says I get the Dak Prescott press conferences down packed. You know what it's going to be. Yeah, I got to be better. Yeah, I can't take those shots. I want to be aggressive, but I got to be better with the ball. Yeah, I got to be better. And I promise you that I will be. It's a lot of promises. It's a lot of talk. We need to see it on the field.
I agree. I hope that really his extension basically is ghost years. Basically put more years on the contract and spreading out the money. We know that his cap number is going to get brought down to at least 24, $25 million a year. It's already written. This is what Cowboy players do. This is how Steven runs the team. This is the first time where I can honestly say that it was all on four this year in the playoff game. Not that we had a better team than the 49ers, but we could have beat them. And that's where you ask yourself, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? No, the 49ers were a better team than the Dallas Cowboys. However, the Dallas Cowboys should have won that game, and we lost the game because of Dak Prescott. So, Dak, this is it. It's the spotlight's on you. Now it's on you. You are one of the top two or three quarterbacks in the NFC, depending on what happens with Aaron Rodgers. So now it's on you. So it's no more excuses. The Cowboys should keep you. However, it's your team now.
Yeah. Next up is the person that I thought was the MVP in 2021. I always said it. I was very disappointed in his 2022, and that's Brian Anger, the punter. Um, just didn't his punts a lot of times. I agree. I agree with the person that commented. We need Ford to show up. It's time, man. It's time for us to stop making excuses for him. The ankle, the thumb. No, it's time to go, man. You don't have a lot of years left. You're turning 30 this year, so it's time. It's time for Rain to take control and lead this team. And let me just say this: I'm going backtracking a little bit. If you notice, the way Kellen Moore and the way Dak Prescott handled their games against the NFC East, they're comfortable. They have no stress. They're free. Just look at the play call and look at the stats. The man is 27-7 against the NFC East. Okay,
You you've been
so
you've been saying it, and you know I know I don't want to take away from what you're doing with keep them and dump them, but I'm just gonna say a couple things, and we're gonna scratch our head because I know how you felt about these two quarterbacks going into the season. Jalen Hurts is in the Super Bowl because the front office of the Eagles basically set him up to fail because they gave him everything to succeed, and he hasn't failed. The other quarterback who you criticize and you get on more than anybody because he's a turnover waiting to happen, he led the NFL in turnovers 2 years ago. He got a coach. Daniel Jones has a coach, and he had the less turnovers out of any starting quarterback.
yeah.
So
So this is what I'm saying to people. If you scheme it up right, Dak's not going to have a lot of turnovers next year because McCarthy is coming back with his West Coast, right? So everybody wants to knock McCarthy, right? Aaron Rodgers sat there and said the game has passed him by, this, that, and the third. What has Aaron Rodgers won since Mike McCarthy left?
but a bunch of empty MVPs.
Okay, I'm gonna give credit to another show, The Herd. The Herd did blind resume, and they put records of coaches up against Mike McCarthy, and when he flashed the silhouettes on the screen, McCarthy was right there with Sean Payton. He was right there with Parcells. He was right there with Tomlin. If you look at the stats, do I think Mike McCarthy is great? No. Do I think he did a decent job this past year? I do. So I think he's just going to take control of the offense. We ain't going to go too far down the rabbit hole. So if I'm saying Brian Anger, I'm gonna believe he's going to have a
You know, you skipped two
bounce back.
players.
I'm
You
going in
doing?
roster order
Oh, I thought you was doing by numbers.
by numbers. Yeah, 1, 4. Oh,
You-
okay. So you want to say 2 and 3 because they weren't on the active roster. So we could do that. Anybody that knows me knows I am completely biased with number 2, Jordan Lewis. I'm a University of Michigan fan. I've seen him since he was a 17, 18-year-old kid when he first stepped on the campus of Michigan. I don't try to do this with a lot of players. I love Jordan Lewis. I love everything about him. So for me, definitely I would be the one that bring him back.
well, JD, Cowboys have no choice but to bring him back. He's a veteran in the secondary. Um, him and the next player that you're going to talk about is it most is ironic when it comes to JD and looking him getting drafted. He does not fit the Dan Quinn mold at all, far as height, far as the tangibles. But JD is a gamer. I think the problem with JD going forward is not going to be health. It's going to be Deron Bland has arrived, and with that, I don't know if Deron Bland could really play the outside, but I know he could play the slot, and I know JD could play the slot. So I would definitely have to keep JD around though, because I think you could do some special things with JD, and I think going forward, JD's roster spot is going to affect another person's roster spot. We'll get to in a couple slots down. We're
Okay,
gonna get to Elliott. We're gonna get to Elliott. Don't worry. We're definitely gonna get to Zeke.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's coming. Um, so number 3, Anthony Brown. I'm not going to waste a lot of time. Dump him. I'm tired of him. Tired of.
I will say this. I have probably been the biggest Anthony Brown fan out of any Cowboy fan ever. He's peaked. Unfortunately, Anthony Brown tore his knee up. Terrible injury on his last year's contract. He's peaked. The ship has sailed. The only way that Anthony Brown comes back is injuries towards the end of the season, and you need a depth player. That's it. I'm being honest. He's peaked. He's for a 6th round pick. You got exactly what you're supposed to get out of a 6th round pick, 6, 7 years, and he was a good soldier. It's time to move on.
Okay, and the next player, I know for a fact we're gonna differ. That's number 6, Donovan Wilson, and I'm dumping him, man. I mean, to me, he's a one-dimensional player, man. He comes up and he hits like a freight train, but man, oh man, he's terrible in coverage. And teams are gonna continue to isolate him, and they're gonna pick his behind apart. He's a nice little guy, man. These Cowboys reporters love him. I'm dumping Dono. I'm dumping.
most most people think me and Dwayne do a lot of pre-production work, but we don't. We'll talk privately, but we don't. This is where Dwayne is wrong at. I'm not going to disagree with him. Donovan Wilson needs to go. Donovan Wilson is a hitter. Donovan Wilson does miss tackles, but he's an exceptional hitter. He's a throwback safety who can't cover. And Donovan Wilson's roster spot loses to Jordan Lewis. That's what I meant. Jordan Lewis roster spot affects someone else. Um, I believe the way that the Cowboys play defense, you could do more with Jordan Lewis up there in that front 7 area with Curse than you could with Donovan Wilson up there in that front 7 area. Jordan Lewis don't miss tackles. He don't hit, but he don't miss tackles, and he's an excellent cover guy. He'll get beat, but he get beat because of his size, which you don't have to worry about in those intermediary routes that he'll have to cover. So I want JD over Dono.
Oh wow. All right. At 9 is Turpentine. How this guy was a Pro Bowl, I
Number
don't
7,
know.
Dwayne.
Huh?
Number 7.
Oh, well, I'm keeping Diggs. I mean, he don't tackle worth a lick, but he gets mad. I'm not happy with the Instagram model girlfriend, but that's on him. Um, I was very disappointed in him. Very, as you know. I I own 3 jerseys, and I own the number 4 for Rain. I own the 7 for Diggs, and this year I bought a alternate Parsons jersey, and I will give you my opinions on number 11 shortly. But I'm a Trayvon Diggs fan, man. But big time players make big plays in big games. He had a chance to make a game changing play against San Francisco. The ball not only hit him in his hands, it hit him in his chest, and then he had another chance to catch it off the ricochet of his chest, and he ain't do it. So he's aggressive. He's too aggressive. He bites on some of the most ridiculous routes sometimes, but he's a two-time Pro Bowler, and he better stop trying to punch when he's tackling. But I'm definitely keeping 7.
You got to keep 7. I think that what he need to worry about is that the Cowboys didn't extend him yet. And usually, if you know the Cowboys, they'll usually extend you early. If they really want you, they'll extend you early, or they'll extend you after you get an injury, which is an interesting thing how the front office is able to operate. One thing about Diggs, and I'm gonna say this, got to keep him, but I'm gonna say this, Diggs, if losing bothers you so much, you'll do everything within your power to win. Turpentine,
Turpentine, right? This guy's a Pro Bowler. I think he's a Pro Bowler
he's an
because
all pro, sir.
well, okay, whatever. But I think this is because the little guy that could from the USFL, this, that, and the third, you could see it is there, but you can also see something's missing because you'll see times where you're like, why he ain't bounced that to the outside and house it? Now, I think in Mike McCarthy's offense, you're gonna see more out of Turpin and Mike McCarthy's offense than you saw out of Kellen Moore's offense. I think you're going to see him in the slot. I think you're going to see him sometimes lined up in the backfield, quick pitches. You know, remember, you know, Mike McCarthy, if correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that I am. He took that boy Montgomery from the Packers wearing number 88, and that's thing you do. He was lined up, running the ball, doing.
Yeah,
I'm
he
not
made
saying
Ty Montgomery a very good player.
I'm not saying Turpentine is Ty Montgomery. I'm just saying McCarthy will put some people in unique situations. You may see CD Lamb lined up in the backfield a little bit next year as well. But yeah, I'm keeping Turpentine. You know, stop fumbling kicks, but I'm keeping Turpentine.
I'm keeping Turpin. I believe that Turpin needs to get the hell away from Bones Fossil. I think that Bones Fossil is a good coach, but he's an overcoacher sometimes. I think that Bone Fossil, like most guys that come from special teams, he hasn't gotten the call to become a head coach. So I think he does a lot of performing on the sideline, which I don't need to see. I don't need to see a coach, a special teams coach putting on a performance. Coach the guys, get them, and he does a great job. It just it's more that comes with the show with him that I need to be, and I think that he hurts Turpin with trying to be exotic with these returns.
Mhm.
And just let this kid play because it's an instinct position, and let the kid have his instincts on whether he see the crease or not, or whether he want to return or not.
Yeah. So number 10, Cooper Rush, your backup quarterback who stepped in and did a very good job. Um, Here's what I would like to see the NFL do. I don't know that they will. I think you got the 53 active roster. I think they should keep another slot for a quarterback. I think you should be able to have 3 quarterbacks on your active rosters. One is just there in case of emergency, like break the glass. Use this only in case of emergency. We saw last week, Black Purdy gets hurt, definitely can't throw the ball. Unfortunately, Josh Johnson gets a concussion, and you got to bring Black Purdy back, knowing he can't throw the ball. I think there should be an emergency slot just for the quarterbacks. Um, so I'm gonna say something that may not be popular with Cowboy fans. I'm dumping Cooper Rush and I'm drafting a young quarterback in the third or fourth round that I can groom to have behind Dak Prescott. Now, I'm very partial. We'll wait to draft time. I'm just going to tell it. I'm just going to tell you the university. I'm very partial to starting quarterback for Fresno State. Okay, I'll take a flyer on him in like the fourth round and see what he could do for me. Um, but yeah, I'm not keeping Cooper Rush. I mean, I'm not.
This is where I get tricky with the roster. Cooper Rush will be in Los Angeles helping Herbert learn Kellen Moore's offense. Cooper Rush could go. Cooper Rush, good soldier, worked his tail off last year. Cowboys need to draft a quarterback, and I believe they should sign a veteran quarterback, not a veteran who an athletic veteran, a veteran that knows this type of offense. I know it's been a lot of talk that Scott Tozier might be coaching somewhere in Dallas. I'm not saying you got to get somebody that knows how to use their feet. I don't know if Hunley is still around, Dwayne. I'm chasing that. I'm throwing stuff
Yeah,
against the wall.
yeah,
But I'm definitely trying to get somebody that understands who Mike McCarthy is and what Mike McCarthy is doing. Definitely somebody on their feet. I just don't because if you like him and what Ron Wolf used to do is they drafted quarterback every year and they turned the fourth and fifth round quarterbacks into second and third round picks, and that's what unfortunately the Cowboys organization don't know how to do. They haven't drafted a first round quarterback since Troy Aikman. I ain't
yeah,
saying draft a quarterback in the first round.
yeah,
I'm saying when you do emphasize a position, you wind up striking gold.
yeah. So just looking at the clock, we're gonna roll through some of these people quicker. Um, Micah Parsons, of course, you're gonna keep him. I just want him to shut up and play. That's it.
I agree 1,000% with what you're saying.
Uh, Michael Gallup, you gotta keep him. You have to. You signed him to a 4-year deal. Um, the injuries bothers me, concerns me. You get a wide receiver that has lower leg injuries. Now we on the second leg. I'm a little concerned. They say he's going to be healthy for the start of camp, but you have no choice but you got to keep him.
Keep him. The Sean Lee curse continues.
Yeah. Number 14. This is intriguing for me. Jabril Cox. I still don't know what we have in him. Just hasn't been on the field. Um, I can go either way on this one, man. Like I can go either way. For the sake of this, I'm gonna say dump him because there got to be a reason he hasn't gotten on the field.
What I'm gonna say keep him, but what hurts Jabril Cox is Jabril Cox and Barr, and we'll get to Barr. They thrive better in the 4-3 because the Cowboys don't run a traditional 4-3. They run that big nickel, or they'll be in traditional nickel. It hurts them because they just need to flow. They're not Jabril is not good enough run stopper in between them tackles, and he's a little light in the frame, and it hurts him. So I think that Dan Quinn having another year under his belt, having, and we'll talk about Gifford, what he wants to do with Gifford. Jabril Cox is on notice.
Yeah. Next up is number 15 quarterback Will Greer. Dump him.
Dump him.
T.J. Hilton, 16 wide receiver. To me, it's a dump. I
Dump him.
mean, he came in, but to me, it's a dump.
Dump him.
18. I want to see what happens with 18, man. Jalen Tober, you're not gonna dump him. I mean, you used a third round draft pick on him. Let's see how he develops in this new offense.
Keep
This
him.
new offense may fit him actually, so I'm keeping him. Um, Money Brett Maher, I'm dumping him, and I'm using a third round pick. Listen to me, using a third round pick.
Using a third round pick, Dwayne.
Yes, listen,
Whew.
third round pick on Jake Moody. Okay, I've seen his whole career at the University of Michigan. And if you look at the East West Shrine game, the MVP of the East West Shrine game was Jake Moody.
A
Hit from
third round
50,
pick?
he hit from 51, 51. 35
Hey,
and
hey, hey,
35.
hey, brother from Twitch. He usually hangs up the phone on me when I say stuff like this.
Listen, be careful. When did Cincinnati draft McPherson?
I think it was a 4.
We sure?
I don't know exactly, but McPherson will kick it out the stadium.
So will
Yes.
Jake Moody,
Okay.
bro. So all right, I won't say third. Give me a 4.
We're,
Is
we're
it crazy if I
as of
said
right now,
fifth?
we were probably going to get an extra 4th and 5th from the compensatory picks.
Comp me. We can use a comp pick.
Yeah.
Okay? Jake Moody. Remember it. He is clutch. Okay? Don't be afraid. Now listen. If anybody follows me on social media, they know what my favorite saying is during every football
Can't
game.
trust the kicker.
Never trust the field goal kicker. But in Moody, I trust.
Okay.
Okay, now the highest drafted, let me see.
You're at number 21.
Well, 21, we come to Zeke. And Zeke, you've been good, man. You've been good to the Dallas Cowboys. You look good in that 21, all that stuff. Bye, Zeke. It's been nice. Happy trails to you until we meet again.
You
Get rid of
can't
Ezekiel
win.
Elliott. Get rid
It's
of
time. We all three agree dump Zeke. It's time to go.
Bum Bum.
I know 2 weeks ago, a week ago after the season was over, Dallas Morning News said that Ezekiel Elliott was willing to take a pay cut, and then his father Stacy came out and said that was fake news. Well, guess what? Don't let the door hit you on the way out. It's time to go. It's time to change. He was a good soldier. Zeke got paid. Oh, we're not even going to talk about what he did and how I feel about what he did early, but it's time to move on.
Okay, Evan McPherson was drafted in the 5th round. So give me Jake Moody in the 4th round. Bye, Zeke. That's all I'm saying to you. Um, Again, there you go. I agree. Because I think of one thing when I think of Ezekiel Elliott. Okay? You know what I think of when I think of Ezekiel Elliott?
Mr. Tapper, tap it out.
Tap, tap. I gotta
Let
come
me
out. I just
let me
ran the
do it. Let
ball.
me do it right. That's how he
And
hit
we
his
ain't
helmet.
talking about tapping on somebody's head with a big catch either. It's not what we're talking about. Okay. We go back at it. Excuse me, I lost my place when I was looking for McPherson. And I know time is well
You're at
spent.
24.
We're almost up to an hour and we're amongst friends. Okay. 23. Rico Dowdell. Dump him. Can't stay
Chip
healthy.
sale. Chip sale.
Always hurt. So we gotta dump Rico. Gotta do it. Sorry, Rico. 24. I think we found something, folks. I think we found something in Israel. Okay. When we put Bland out there on the outside and we went big and we used Israel, Israel's better than Dono, man. He could do more than Dono. So you let Dono go and you put Israel in that slot. He's going to be something special.
He's bigger. He's bigger, stronger, faster. Could do more. Has the background of playing the cornerback. You put him in the middle of the field, sticking those short intermediate routes up there with JD and Curse.
He's a Viper, man. He could play
He's
corner
he's
and safety.
he's a
Right, Bo?
problem. Keep Israel. He's a Dan Quinn pick. One thing about Dan Quinn is that he knows how to use everybody that he has picked, that him and Will McClay has picked. So I'm definitely keeping Israel.
6'4". Remember that. Also, number 25, I'm keeping Nashawn Wright. Special teams. He's long. He's rangy. I think there's potential for him. Remember when you drafted him, even though you used the 3rd round pick on him, he was raw. So I want to continue to see him develop.
Nate,
I will keep him on the roster ahead of Anthony Brown.
Nashon is the same player when I think of Israel. I think that these two players are players that need to be taught the scheme and learn the scheme and play it in the scheme. You keep them both. Keep Nashon. I mean, I'm really expecting one of them to potentially almost start next year or be a quasi starter. So I really like what they how they came along and knowing the system and just going forward and moving on.
Well, I'm a like for the sake of time, I'm keeping 26, 27, and 28.
Oh
That's
yeah, all
Javon
three of them.
and Javon Curse and
Yeah,
Malik.
yeah.
Nothing to
I just got one quick note on 27. 27 to me is our leader.
yeah, for sure. For
He's
sure.
ascended the leader. I know a lot of people always say, "Well, this the captain. He does all the talk." No, 27 is the Dallas Cowboys leader.
It's number 29. It is time to it is time to dump CJ Goodwin. You've
Well,
been good.
Dwayne, the thing with C.J. Goodwin, he was the one. He was one of those players. The Cowboys did that roster stuff too, where he missed the final cut and then they made him a game day call up and he played. I mean, to be honest with you, I understand that you got your guys like who went to the Hall of Fame like the Don Beebes for special teams and the Slaters, but C.J. Goodwin doesn't do enough for me.
No.
I mean, he doesn't do enough, and he doesn't. I get special teams, but what's that? 8 plays a game, 9 plays a game.
Mhm.
It's time to move on. You got guys.
Yeah. So some of these lesser guys, we ain't even gonna waste our time. Coyle, Sheffield, we ain't gonna waste our time even discussing them. Um, Damone Clark, number 33. I think he's got something. Um, got to remember the type of injury this young man came into his rookie season having. It's a lot of medical people are very they marvel at the fact that he even made it back and played this year. So he's definitely a keep for me.
Damone Clark was a guy that he definitely gets kept. Damone Clark was a guy that shouldn't have played this year. Played, showed flashes of what he could be. Um, I think going forward, I believe that Damone Clark is going to be not next year, but the year after that. He's going to be the defensive play caller. So you have to keep him from a linebacker standpoint. Damone Clark, from a linebacker standpoint, I'm going to just say from a linebacker standpoint, Damone Clark might have the best upside of any linebacker on the Cowboys roster.
Well, well, listen. I went crazy on draft day. Because you were doing it off what you think he could be, not what he could do for you immediately. And I was so happy to see him get on the field. The only thing I didn't like about him being on the field is the number that they gave him. I don't think anybody should be wearing Tony Dorsett's number. I can't say that enough. 33 is a number that should not be assigned to anybody. But other than that, love the kid. Malik Davis, big fan. I'm keeping Malik Davis. I want to see what I got out of him. I think he could be something, a good compliment to TP. And we forgot about TP because we jumped to Zeke. But of course, we got to resign TP, man. Got to resign him. I got to go back to that because we wanted to get to the Zeke thing. But TP is for me. TP is for me. So, got to keep him.
Just be very careful. All I'm asking the front office is be very careful giving TP a lot of money. Only reason why it's a lower leg injury. And we tend to get burnt signing our guys when it comes to injuries. Um, TP's a warrior. What's funny is I'm sitting here telling you guys be careful with the money, but I'm franchising TP, and it sounds crazy. I'm franchising him as a holder
Mm.
to see how his health is. It has nothing to do with performance. If his health is now, I'm going to TP when I see him in training camp. Yo, let's sign a 4-year deal. Let's get this tag
Mm.
up off you and let's move forward. But
Um,
definitely keeping Malik because Malik is something. Malik is TP, and you could do something special with both of them, perhaps in the backfield together if you understand the West Coast offense, because the West Coast offense
yeah.
has a fullback.
My illustrious co-host and producer, he's great. He's great, folks. I'm gonna tell you, this man that you see on the opposite side of me is great, but we got to put a disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in any of this broadcast is the responsibility of the person who speaks them. Okay? I'm giving TP some money because he can do it in the run game and the pass game. But again, my illustrious co-host and producer, I love him dearly, and this is what we do. Okay, Anthony Barr.
Brad. All I'm gonna say, Brad, is we're gonna get to Schultz, and you're gonna be surprised at what
You're
we
gonna
say
like it.
about Schultz.
You're not gonna like it. You're not gonna like it. Um, my Jersey boy Marquise Bell. You could
Yeah,
dump him.
yeah. It
He,
doesn't matter. Training camp invite.
yes. Anthony Barr, dump him. I
You,
mean,
you
he
you
does
know, Dwayne, the
dump him.
problem with Anthony Barr is the linebacker position has changed in the NFL. If you cannot tackle and cover together, you can't be a linebacker because most teams only got two linebackers. The San Francisco 49ers, who I love to say have the greatest linebacker corps in the league, all three of their linebackers can tackle, can blitz, can cover, can do whatever you want. So if Fred Warner comes up the field, he's the best middle linebacker in football. If he comes up the field, you're not missing a beat because those other two guys just show up and that's what make them good. They know how to shed blocks. These are the typical linebackers. You're looking for now the 6'1", 6'2" linebacker who could just fly sideline to sideline. And guess what, folks? Linebackers are not staying around 10, 15 years no more.
No.
You might have a 4-year, 5-year window. So Anthony
Listen,
Barr, it's time to go.
I like Anthony Barr. I like him. He's a professional. He's a gamer. He's a 3-4. He's a 3-4 outside linebacker. That's what Anthony Barr is. And because of injuries and because of the way that we play football, and I said we, that's right, I'm Cowboys, we. You're asking this man to be a middle linebacker. Enough said. Okay? So we got 44 and 45, and they both long snappers. Like, so whatever. Like, keep one, dump one, whatever. We need a long snapper.
Yeah.
Can we bring back 91? Is it possible to bring him back?
LP, where you at?
LP, where you at? Leads to one of my favorite players on this Dallas Cowboy team. One of my favorite players is number 54, Sam Williams. So I'm definitely keeping him. I think he had a very, very good rookie year, man. I mean, he was solid. Don't let me say very, very good. I'll say solid. He flashed. He played well against the run. He can get after it, man. He can get after it. So I like Sam Williams a lot.
54 is a very interesting player. I think 54 is one of those guys who is going to uh, go crazy next year. You got to keep him. He was what you say a behavioral project, but you see why because he's edgy. He's one of them players that will get the personal foul, but it'll make the next play too.
Yeah.
50 Sam Williams is one of the 53 players that I would love on my roster any day, all day because of the attitude. He has dog in him, and you see it.
He's a
It's
dog.
written all over him.
A good dog, not a bad dog. He's a
Yeah, good dog. Good dog. Good dog.
I got a bad dog trying to scratch it.
Can I say the next guy?
Go ahead.
You absolutely sign him. Everybody has been talking about, oh, Van Der Esch this, he ain't the same. When you leave him alone with a coordinator who knows what he's doing, Van Der Esch is a borderline NFL Pro Bowler year in and year out, barring injury. He was the defensive captain. You literally had Van Der Esch right on the ass of a defensive tackle this year, who's a big boy, who took up 2 blocks, and you show Van Der Esch. Van Der Esch quietly just goes out. He's a lunch pail guy, and he gets it done.
Listen, man, you will rue the day that you let LVE go. And we're being infiltrated by a very nice man right now.
Yeah, by our brother,
A legend,
Butler.
a legend in my book. I love him. I love him. You know, he just like my cousin. He just like my big cousin, that damn black and gold. But that's okay. You're always welcome. You're always welcome. And I'm envious. I wish I had a coach like Mike Tomlin. I wish. So I'm LVE all day and twice on Sundays. I love LVE. I hope he gives us a homer discount and stays with us.
Yes.
Dante Fowler, dump him.
I mean, Dante Fowler is just like his buddy Tack McKinley. you all I can say is the ship has sailed. I mean, and the ship has sailed because of the way that we roster built. I
Yeah.
believe that he still got something left, but because of the way we roster built, it's a youth movement going on. Dan Quinn, if Dante Fowler doesn't get signed, he might be a late addition during the season. But
Mhm.
other than that, that defensive end position is going to be manned by the young guys. Is going to be Golson and Sam Williams.
Yes. Number number 57. And listen, every team needs a glue guy. Every team just needs a lunch pail. He gonna come to work. He gonna punch his clock. He may not be the most athletic. He may not be the most gifted, but every damn time he's on the field, he's making plays. That's Luke Gifford. He can play on my team whenever he wants. I'm keeping him.
I like the way that Dan Quinn played Luke Gifford towards the end of the year. Got him some reps. Dan Quinn, for lack of better words, he pulled the fast one on us, and Luke Gifford was part of the fast one towards the end of the year because Dan Quinn, in my opinion, the last 4 weeks of the NFL season, he ran a lot of zone and was trying things out. But you saw a different game plan in the playoffs. And the three linebacker set, the physicality of the defense. Um, you saw it. You saw it a little bit, and Gifford was part of it. Plus, he's a special team guy that just go out there and make tackles.
Yeah, special teams ace. All right. Number 66. I don't know why they keep trying to replace him. Um, I'm keeping Connor McGovern. You crazy? Plays a solid left guard, man. I'm keeping him. Keeping him.
Well,
Then,
I'm gonna say this that Connor McGovern, if the Dallas Cowboys play games, you guys may think I'm crazy. You will see NFL teams line up to sign him. If you look at what he's done from Penn State to Dallas, the Cowboys actually stashed him for a couple years and never played him. He was a third round pick. He has the same name as the Connor McGovern from the Jets, but
yeah.
this is the different one. And if you watch him at the point of attack, he's very, very good.
And it's
Um,
funny that you mentioned Connor McGovern of the Jets, right? Because if I'm the Jets and the Cowboys is dumb enough, I'm getting the Dallas Connor McGovern and putting him on that Jets line. I'm getting rid of the other Connor McGovern. I'm putting this one in
yeah, yeah. So
there.
I'm gonna just say that I don't like what Dallas has the little tea leaves that they set out there because this is what the ownership do because they talk so much.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna be quietly disappointed in McGovern because we got to realize that the president ain't gonna be around forever.
No, no. 68 Fournette. I love him. I love his versatility. Could play all three slots in the interior of the offensive line. I'm keeping him.
I'm keeping Fournette, and I believe that Solari's going to want these guys. Think Solari's going to want these power guys, and we'll see what's going to happen. I want him too. I want all these linemen. I want all the young linemen,
Yeah.
all of
Well, of
them.
course, you don't have to waste much time on 70.
The
He's a link.
president,
He's there.
the
Uh,
president, just pencil him in.
just pencil him in. 71. I'm keeping Jason Peters. I think there's value there with Jason Peters. I think his leadership showed a little bit towards the end of the year. If he gets his conditioning together, remember he came to the Cowboys late. I think if he gets a full off season, I think you can have Jason Peters. I think you can get a good year out of him.
My issue with Jason Peters is what is required from him. I believe that if you say to Jason Peters, we're going to pencil you in as a starter. This is what we expect from you. I believe Jason Peters is going to be a soldier and do it. I would not allow Jason Peters to be a spot starter or a swing or what they call a swing tackle,
Mm-hmm.
because to me that will make a veteran like him disinterested. I think Jason Peters needs to be interested. Now, he's a Hall of Famer. He's going to be a shoo-in for the Hall of Famer as an Eagle, and I believe that he's a teacher. So I would keep him around as long as he wants to be around. Just have a set plan for him.
Yeah. 73, there's no doubt. If he stays healthy, he's on the left side of your line for the next 10 years. A lot of people killed the Cowboys for taking him last year in the first round. You got to show me many tackles who would move inside to guard that was better in the rookie season. I know you had those two rookies out in Seattle. who were very solid tackles. You also had Evandale of the Giants, who played pretty good. Darashaw played pretty good. But I'm very happy with 73. I'm very happy with Tyler Smith. I think he accounted himself very, very well in his rookie year.
My issue with Tyler Smith, there is none.
75. Happy trails to you, Josh Ball. It was nice. Get up out of here. Um, my pet project, number 76, Avante Collins. I'm keeping him because that's my guy.
I was a little upset with how they treated Avante Collins during the playoff game. We didn't see that all year, and then you decided to use him during the playoff game, and that just goes to show with um, not having continuity in that offensive room. I think Avante Collins is a young, raw kid that you can keep around. I think he could be coached up. And if you ever notice one thing about their linemen, I don't know if it's Duke Mayweather, who everybody screams about, who these guys go to in the offseason or whoever, but he always seems to get better. So I don't know what that's about. Who else, Wayne? Oh boy, 77.
Don't say that, Duke. Anytime Duke names come up, I go off camera. I'm not dealing with that. You understand? 77. I'm not getting rid of 77 until he decides he wants to get rid of himself. So I'm keeping Tyrod Smith.
What is ironic about Tyron Smith is the man could possibly have 5, 6 more seasons left if he want to, if his body holds up. I know he just had a little surgery to clean some things up, but Tyron is
Mm-hmm.
Tyron. Tyron on his worst day is a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that, but he is.
Yep.
78, restricted free agent.
78. Terrence Steele. I'm keeping him. He's coming off a long injury, but I'm keeping him.
I agree. You got to keep him. It's amazing how much he's won over most Cowboy fans. Um, I just think Terrence he's somebody you root for, and he's solid.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who
79.
next?
Matt Walesko. You're going to see what his worth is. I'm keeping him.
Matt Walesko. All I'm gonna say is watch out next year.
Yeah. I'm keeping him. Excuse me. I'm sorry, folks. Little mishap. Somebody sees what I'm doing, but we're not going to spend time. All right. So, 81. Woke up. I got to give up on my dream. Simi just can't get on the field. So, I'm dumping him.
Good night, Irene. It's over, Simi.
Um, um, jeez. Sorry, kid. Sorry, everyone. Um, hold on one second. All right. 84, Sean McKeon. I'll let you get started.
Sean McKeon, solid guy out of Michigan. Keep him because of what we're trying to do. What McCarthy tried to do. You will lie. Let me tell you one thing about the running game with McCarthy. If the running game is like literally pushing you off the line, you will see McCarthy sit back there with three tight ends and a running back. He'll go full house backfield. So keep McKeon. He's always a, a great blocker for the backside of Dak. If you notice when they got the 22 personnel in, I'm definitely keeping Sean McKeon around.
Noah Brown, I'm dumping him. I'm tired of seeing 85. He's Zeke's caddy anyway. I don't want Zeke back, so he can take his Ohio State buddy with him on the way out the door.
They could both go out. They could both go out to Los Angeles and play for the Chargers.
Yeah. Um, so I know someone mentioned this person earlier. I am not paying Dalton Schultz. I'm not. I think we got some young, exceptional tight ends in Ferguson and Hendershot, who, 87, 88, and 89. We all know we keeping them. So I think Dalton Schultz, thank you. I just don't know that I'm a franchise tag him as a tight end because I may have to franchise TP. And so, we tried to sign Dalton Schultz. He didn't want to sign a long-term agreement. He bet on himself. So I hope he bets on himself on the way out the door. Bye.
Dalton Schultz is an odd tight end to understand. He's actually shown us since he's been with the Cowboys what the scouting report said that he was strong at in blocking, point of attack, he's not, and catching, he's decent.
Mhm.
We draft too well and have too good of a tight end coach around to keep him. Just go draft another tight end in the fifth round, and just keep the train moving. You got two good young tight ends, and three, because you could do a lot of things with Sean McKeon, who we said prior, but you also got Hendershot and Ferguson, who you're gonna keep. Hendershot showed you something.
Mhm. So we're keeping 88. We're keeping 89. We're keeping Demarcus Lawrence. Leads us to one of our most intriguing players that me and you always battle about. We always try to kick this man off the roster. Number 91, Carlos Watkins. We always try to kick him off the roster, but then he's always flashing in games. But I'm going to dump him.
You
And,
know
and
what's
with
funny?
talk maybe bringing him back.
What's funny is that when he got cut at the end of training camp, me and you said to ourselves, they finally did it. However, what they did towards the end of the year, when that defense really got stout, is when they played him and Hankins together, and those two are hard to get rid of. He's going to be hard to get rid of. You got to invite him to camp. As much as we think, it's just something about him. It's something about him, and it's interesting. I'm going to talk. His roster spot is contingent on another guy we're going to talk about.
Uh, Number 92, Darns Armstrong. I'm keeping Darns. I love Darns.
Breakout season this year.
I think
High
he's
ankle
very
sprain.
underrated.
He had a high ankle sprain towards the end, so a lot of people think his numbers tailed off because he was hit the wall, but he had a high ankle sprain and still played.
Yeah, number 95, 5 years in the making, Jonathan Hankins. I'm keeping him on the roster.
Dwayne, you said it right. I wanted him 5 seasons ago. I just love him. I love those guys. Um, those guys got me hung up on. I just need a guy who's a fat guy who's you gonna plug because you gotta allow linebackers to flow. And
Yeah,
these type of guys do it. And the next guy is on notice.
96,
He's on
96.
notice.
Neville Gallimore is on notice. I don't think his roster spot is secure. If they keep him, I wouldn't be upset. If they dumped him, I wouldn't be upset.
He's the one that's on notice because he's the one that
It's
should be
two.
pushing.
It's two.
He should be pushing Carlos Watkins out the door.
Mm-hmm.
He should be pushing Hankins out the door. But
Mm-hmm.
because for some reason he's not a space eater, he gets upfield every now and then. It's a problem, so he's on notice.
I love 97. I'm keeping 97. Osa Digazua. I just love everything about his game. I love his motor. I love his drive. I love his competitiveness. I'm keeping him. Uh,
Honestly, he's got star written all over him. It's just a matter of a breakout year, a breakout game with a national media talk about him. Osa Digazua, he has special written all over him. It's just a matter of time before he has a breakout.
the other person that I said there was two when you were talking about Neville Gallimore, it's a prove it or lose it time for Quentin Bohanna. He got to get his body right. He got to stay on the field. I'm not questioning somebody's drive or heart. I'm just saying there's always something. He's inactive 1 week, comes back 2 weeks, inactive 3 weeks. Um, he's on the clock, and I think he's on the clock because I think we found something in '99.
See, see the
Versus,
prop, and I'm gonna get to 99, but the problem with 96 and 98 is is the old guys. Those old guys is not giving up those. Take them,
take it,
take it, as you say, take it.
take the bull by the horn,
Yeah,
man.
take it. You want the position, Quentin? You want the position, Neville? Take it, because Carlos Watkins and Hankins understand the league will just spit you out at 32, 33 years old, and you'll be running around looking for a job. Next thing you know, you're on NFL Network or one of these other networks talking sports instead of playing it.
Mm,
So if you want the positions, take them.
yep.
Your next guy, Dwayne, every time we see as Cowboy fans, and definitely when we were young, somebody wearing 99, it always makes us smile. Um, this kid, in my opinion, is the hardest player to figure out
He is.
because he literally has, I didn't see nothing, or wow. He literally sets the tone in that interior when he plays. I'm going to be very interested to see him, which is interesting, if him and OC can play together
Mm-hmm.
because he's a very, very good player. You can see the wrestling background when you really look at the film. I mean, he's just Chauncey Golston is he's a defensive tackle version of Demarcus Lawrence.
Absolutely.
He's not going to get you a whole bunch of stats, but he's going to stop the run and he's not going to miss tackles. If you ever watched Demarcus Lawrence, people will be, oh, he had him in the backfield, he could have sacked. No. Demarcus Lawrence is going to set the edge most of the time, and when he guesses right most of the time. And this is Chauncey Golston. Chauncey is he's one of them players. I hate to say it, that if the Cowboys ever gave up on him, he'll go somewhere else, and people be like, the Cowboys is stupid.
Yeah.
But
And
if he doesn't play, it's because of numbers.
and that's what it comes down to. But hey, man, we did it. And we got about 8 minutes to go before we get to the 1:30 mark. So I'm just gonna ask you, what are you most looking forward to as we move into the new season? Because the season turns, you gotta turn the page quick. So
I'm
what are
gonna
you most looking forward to?
I'm gonna take approximately 2 minutes to do this.
Okay.
I want the Cowboys to get I want them to get two receivers, one via trade or free agency, and I want them to draft another receiver. I want the Cowboys to get another running back to go back there with TP and Malik, um, preferably a bigger guy. Coaching wise, everybody says Kitna, but really the quarterback coach is going to be Mike McCarthy. That's why he got an offensive coordinator, because he's going to work with Dak. Anybody knows anything about Mike is that he forms very close relationships. Him and Aaron Rodgers, they work close. They just got tired of each other, which happens. I really think that the Cowboys are in a very unique situation. Some people will say they need to rebuild. Some people say they need to do all these restructures and get extra $60 million and make a run for it. I think all of the fans universally think they need to put all their chips to the table. Could do what Coach Fossil said. I'm all in. I think that Steven wants to do it finally. I think that this is Steven's year to do it. I know that Steven always wants us to be fiscal responsible, but I really believe that Steven really he sees it. I believe um, our counterparts in our division, Howie is running circles around the front office, not from a standpoint of Will McClay and them ain't drafting the players. They're doing a Cowboys the best drafting team in the league. But what the Cowboys have realized is that they don't want to pay good players, great player money, but you have to have a good mix.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. It's not a perfect science. This is why only one teams win the Super Bowl. Um, that old adage of having a quarterback going to the Super Bowl on their rookie contract is reigning true again, because the Eagles and even Patty Mahomes with his extension don't kick until next year. So I I'm gonna go back to the statement that I said 2 years ago with the Cowboys. I'm pleasantly intrigued.
Mm. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what McCarthy does with the rest of his hires on the defensive side. I mean, on the offensive side of the ball. Um, I think Scott Tolzien is going to be the quarterback's coach. He's a McCarthy guy. I think you'll see that. Um, I wouldn't be surprised, man, if you see like a former Packer running back, so to speak, um, as a running backs coach. I
Edgar
just
Bennett, huh?
Edgar Bennett. You was on the same wavelength as me. I think you may see that. I don't know. Let me just check real quick. I want to see what his salary status is, where he is. Um, Who is he with right now? I believe. Just give me a second. He's a football coach. Yes, he is. He's right now with the Raiders. So, but it's strange because the Raiders got him as a wide receivers coach, and he was once offense coordinator for the Packers. So
So he basically came with Devontae Adams.
yes, so well before because he's been with the Raiders since 2018. But I wouldn't mind seeing somebody like him coming in and coaching the running backs. Um, I'm staying far away from Odell Beckham Jr. I know our owner's going to go down that route. I just don't. I don't want it. I don't need an Odell Beckham Jr. Okay, there's other guys that you can get less flash. Um, we got to stop being about the flash, and we got to start being more about substance. I want players like Micah Parsons to shut the hell up and play football. I don't want to see you on Twitter. I don't want to see you trying to be on first take and the pivot and all that. Shut up and play. I want Tank Lawrence. Shut up and play. Okay. And I love four. I'm trusting four. I'm moving forward with four. But four got to be better, man. He got to be better. Um, and I'm interested to see what McCarthy's going to do. And once I get out, this damn team sucks me back in. I don't want to be as invested with this team as I am, but I love this team. And hey, I'm already on my draft, man. Trying to tell y'all, the Fresno State quarterback, the Michigan kicker. Give me
So
the
will we have a draft
give,
show out of you this year?
yeah. You will have a draft show.
Are we gonna do? Are we gonna do? I know we do the draft. Are we gonna do pre-draft shows on positions, or just
We'll,
how
we'll work.
we
We'll
how
work
you
it.
want to do it?
We'll work it out. They haven't seen a lot of us lately, so
Yeah,
we'll work it out. But I want
great.
I want Jake Moody, man. I want Jake Moody.
Dwayne literally, folks, has got me about to go scout a kicker.
I want Jake Moody. And the other gentleman called me crazy, and he's right. I want Jake Moody so much I'm willing to do a third round draft pick for
With
him.
that, folks, appreciate everybody for joining us. Remember, like, share, subscribe. We haven't done no sports shows in a while, but we're back.
Are we doing Super Bowl predictions? Because
Oh,
are we doing that?
I would you like to go first?
Oh yeah. I again, one of my mantras is never trust a field goal kicker. I think this game is going to come down to a field goal kick. Mr. Elliott with the Eagles logo on his helmet, and I think Mr. Elliott's going to miss it, and I think the Chiefs are going to win 31-30.
I'm not rooting for the Eagles. That's my prediction. I'm just hard to say it. I know all the Eagle fans would be like, "Q, you crazy." I'm not rooting for the Eagles. That's my prediction. With
Okay,
that, remember, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see
we're
you guys
back,
soon.
baby. We're back.